Kailara stood on the balcony of the royal palace, her eyes scanning the horizon of Valoria's capital. The sky was tinged with a pale gold hue as the twin suns began their slow descent. Normally, such a sight would bring her peace, but today her heart felt heavy. War had been a constant companion for her people, leaving entire cities in ruins and families torn apart. The endless conflict between Valoria's warring factions had become a curse, and Kailara, as the princess, bore the responsibility of finding a solution. She sighed and turned away from the window, her long hair flowing like liquid silver in the evening breeze. Her advisors had insisted on diplomacy, but the talks had produced little progress. It seemed that no alien negotiation could sway the stubborn generals of either side. And now, an unexpected suggestion had reached her. A human diplomat could be the key to ending the conflict. The humans were strange to her. She had heard of their exploits across distant galaxies, but they were small, fragile, and unpredictable. And yet somehow the elders believed a human could broker a peace that Valorians themselves could not. Kailara had to admit, reluctantly, that desperation often required unconventional measures. The next morning, a human arrived at the palace. He was tall and broad-shouldered, with eyes that seemed calm even under the scrutiny of the royal guards. He moved with a quiet confidence that intrigued Kailara immediately. Commander Jason Hale, the human diplomat, had been sent with a mission: negotiate peace no matter the obstacles. Kailara met him in the grand hall. The room was vast, its walls lined with glowing crystal panels that projected the history of Valoria. She studied him carefully as he bowed respectfully. "Princess Kailara," he said, his voice steady and polite, "I am honored to be here, and I hope we can work together to bring peace to your world." Kailara raised an eyebrow. His words were formal, but there was a sincerity in his tone that she found unusual. "You speak boldly for someone who has never set foot on this planet before," she said, her voice cool but curious. "Peace is not easy here. Many have tried and failed," Jason nodded. "I understand. I am not here to promise what cannot be done. I am here to try, and I will do whatever is necessary to help your people." Kailara studied him for a long moment. She saw no arrogance, no greed, only determination. Perhaps this human was different. Perhaps he was the key they all needed. Over the following days, Kailara and Jason attended countless meetings with generals, counselors, and emissaries. Kailara was surprised at how patient and composed he remained, even when discussions grew heated. He listened carefully, asked thoughtful questions, and offered solutions that made sense both logically and morally. Slowly, Kailara began to see the value of having him by her side. But despite his calm exterior, Jason was clearly not accustomed to Valorian customs. He stumbled over ceremonial greetings, misunderstood some protocols, and occasionally laughed at things he found amusing, earning wary glances from the alien officials. Kailara found herself suppressing a smile more than once. There was a charm to his simplicity, a kind of human innocence that made her curious. Then came the proposal that would change everything. In the middle of a tense council meeting, one of the elders suggested a solution Kailara had not considered: a marriage between her and Jason. The thought shocked the room into silence. "A human?" one counselor gasped. "You would marry a human? Can such a bond even bring peace?" Kailara's eyes met Jason's. He remained calm, his expression unreadable. "If it helps your people, I am willing," he said quietly. Kailara felt a strange mixture of emotions. She had not expected the human to agree so easily, yet she realized that agreeing was only part of the challenge. She would have to convince herself, her people, and even the opposing faction that this union could bring the stability they so desperately needed. The decision was not simple. Kailara had been trained to rule, to fight, to lead. She had never imagined that her role as a princess could extend to marrying someone entirely foreign for the sake of peace. And yet, when she looked at Jason, she saw a calm strength that she had not seen in any Valorian. There was a light in his eyes, a confidence that was neither boastful nor arrogant, but quiet and unshakable. Perhaps, just perhaps, this human could help her do what no Valorian could. The wedding was arranged quickly. The palace was filled with a mixture of curiosity and skepticism. Aliens from every faction watched closely, unsure if the marriage could truly hold meaning beyond politics. Kailara walked down the crystalline aisle in her ceremonial robes, feeling every eye upon her. Jason waited at the end, looking calm and composed, his human stature contrasting sharply with the tall, lithe Valorians. When Kalara reached him, she extended her hand. Jason took it gently, bowing his head. "I promise to honor this union, Princess," he said, "and to do all I can to protect your people." Kalara nodded, feeling a sense of relief and apprehension all at once. She repeated her vow, her voice steady. "I promise to do the same." The ceremony concluded, and the couple was declared united. Applause echoed through the hall, but Kalara could sense the doubt lingering in the minds of many. Could a human truly help end this war? Could he truly survive the challenges that awaited? The first days after the wedding were filled with adjustment. Kalara found herself explaining Valorian customs to Jason, who listened carefully, asking questions and making notes. He was eager to learn, respectful of their culture and patient with her instructions. For her part, Kalara tried to understand him. Humans were different from Valorians, but there was a resilience in their simplicity that fascinated her. One evening, as they walked along the palace gardens, Kalara spoke softly, almost to herself. "Do you really think you can help my people, Jason?" Jason looked at her, his expression calm. "I do not know if I can succeed, but I do know I will try with everything I have. Peace is worth every effort." Kalara was struck by the certainty in his words. There was something about his determination that made her feel hope for the first time in years. Perhaps this human was not just a diplomat. Perhaps he was something more, something that could change the course of Valoria's future. That night, Kalara could not sleep. She wandered the palace halls, thinking about the war, the fragile peace, and the man who had agreed to marry her for the sake of her people. She realized that this marriage, which had started as a political strategy, might also be a bridge between two very different worlds. And though she tried to remain guarded, she could not help but feel a flicker of curiosity and admiration for Jason. Days turned into weeks, and Kalara watched as the human adjusted to life on Valoria. He was not perfect, but he learned quickly, and more importantly, he earned the respect of those around him. Soldiers who had doubted his abilities began to seek his counsel. Advisors who had been skeptical of humans started to value his perspective. And Kalara, who had married him out of duty, began to wonder if she had underestimated him. One evening, during a quiet moment in the royal courtyard, Kalara approached Jason as he studied maps of the surrounding regions. "You have a way of seeing what others cannot," she said, her voice thoughtful. "It is unsettling in a good way." Jason looked up, meeting her gaze. "I try to see clearly. The war is not a puzzle to me, it is people, lives, and choices. I cannot solve it without understanding them." Kalara nodded, impressed by his insight. She had expected a human to be weak or limited, but Jason's mind was sharp, his judgment precise. Perhaps this marriage could bring more than peace, it could bring change, understanding, and maybe even trust between their worlds. As the first part of their journey concluded, Kalara realized that this union, meant for diplomacy, had begun to reveal something unexpected. The human she had married was not just a tool for peace. He was strong, intelligent, and capable in ways she had never imagined. And though she could not yet admit it, she felt the first stirrings of respect, and perhaps even something deeper, toward the man who had agreed to fight for her people before even understanding them fully. The suns dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of crimson and violet. Kalara stood beside Jason, looking out over her city, and for the first time in a long while she felt a sense of cautious hope. The war had not yet ended, and the challenges ahead were still daunting. But with this human at her side, perhaps the impossible could become possible. And somewhere deep within her, Kalara understood one undeniable truth. This was only the beginning. The calm of Valoria's palace did not last long. Just a few days after the wedding, news arrived that a rogue faction had launched an unexpected assault on one of the border cities. The city was strategically important, and if it fell, the fragile peace that Kalara and Jason were meant to maintain would crumble before it even began. Kalara's heart raced as she received the report. Soldiers rushed through the palace halls, their armored boots clanging against the floors. The air smelled of urgency and tension. For a moment she felt a pang of fear. She had married Jason for peace, not to witness the horrors of war firsthand. And yet, the responsibility of her people rested squarely on her shoulders. Jason stood calmly beside her, his eyes scanning the battlefield reports projected on the crystal panels. "We can help them," he said quietly. but there was a firmness in his tone that carried weight. "We need a plan and we need to act fast." Kailara studied him. There was no hesitation, no doubt in his demeanor. For a human, she thought, he was remarkably steady. "Do you truly understand what you're stepping into?" she asked, her voice tight with concern. "These battles are not like the exercises you've seen in training. This is real. People's lives are at stake." Jason nodded. "I understand. But doing nothing will cost more lives than acting. We must protect them." The Palace Council quickly agreed that Jason's strategies could be trusted. Kailara, though still uncertain, decided to accompany him to the front lines. It was her first time leaving the safety of the palace since the wedding, and she felt a mixture of fear and anticipation. As they approached the city, Kailara saw the devastation firsthand. Buildings were damaged, fires burned in pockets throughout the streets, and the cries of citizens echoed through the smoke. Soldiers from both sides clashed in chaotic skirmishes, and the rogue faction showed no mercy. Kailara's breath caught as she watched the scene unfold. She had seen war from afar, studied tactics and strategies, but nothing could prepare her for this. And then, she saw Jason step forward. He moved with precision, issuing commands to the troops with calm authority. "Hold the eastern bridge," he instructed, pointing toward a crumbling structure. "Use the buildings for cover. Wait for my signal, then flank from the right." Kailara blinked. She had expected hesitation, mistakes, or fear. Instead, he exuded control. Soldiers who had doubted his abilities now followed his directions without question. The first clash came quickly. The rogue soldiers advanced with speed and ferocity, but Jason anticipated their movements. With Kailara at his side, he directed the defense with uncanny skill. She watched as he moved through the chaos, dodging attacks, signaling soldiers, and maintaining perfect awareness of the battlefield. Kailara felt a surge of something she could not name. Admiration, certainly. Awe, perhaps. She had married him for duty, but she had never imagined witnessing such power firsthand. The human who had seemed fragile in appearance now fought like a seasoned warrior, his presence commanding the battlefield. At one point, a group of rogue soldiers tried to surround a Valorian squad. Jason noticed immediately. Without hesitation, he leaped forward, intercepting the attackers with precise, controlled movements. He disarmed one with a swift motion, used another as a shield to block an incoming strike, and led the squad to safety. Kailara's eyes widened. She had seen Valorian soldiers train for years to achieve such skill, yet Jason executed it with natural efficiency. "Jason," she called, her voice carrying over the chaos. "Be careful." He glanced at her briefly, a small smile on his lips. "I will be. Trust me." Kailara watched as he continued to fight, and slowly the tide began to turn. The rogue faction, confident in their initial assault, started to falter. The soldiers whispered among themselves, glancing at the human who seemed to defy expectations. Rumors began to spread. The human was not merely a diplomat. He was something extraordinary, a force that even the fiercest warriors respected. Hours passed in relentless combat. Kailara never left Jason's side, observing his strategy and courage. She saw him make split-second decisions, redirect troops, and protect civilians caught in the crossfire. Every move he made was precise, calculated, and effective. Her admiration deepened, replaced by awe and a growing sense of trust. During a brief lull in the fighting, Kailara approached Jason. He was catching his breath, checking the positions of his troops and scanning the battlefield for any threats. She hesitated, unsure if she should speak. Finally, she said, "I underestimated you. I did not think a human could." He looked at her, his eyes calm and steady. "Do not underestimate anyone, Princess. Every being has strengths you may not see at first. Even humans," Kailara nodded, feeling a sense of humility. She had married him out of duty, but now she realized that his presence was more than political necessity. It was a gift, a strength she had never imagined possible. The battle reached its climax as the rogue faction tried to make a final push toward the city center. Jason assessed the situation quickly, then signaled to Kailara, "We need to lead the charge together. If we act decisively, we can end this without more unnecessary losses." Kailara swallowed her fear. Together they moved forward, their presence inspiring the soldiers around them. Jason's tactical mind and Kailara's command presence created a synergy that the enemy could not withstand. With careful precision, they directed their forces, cornering the rogue faction and forcing them to retreat. As the dust settled, The city was battered but still standing. Citizens cautiously emerged from hiding, looking at the human who had led their defense with respect and admiration. Lara stood beside him, feeling a mixture of relief and pride. She turned to Jason, her voice soft but steady. You saved them. All of them. He shook his head slightly. We saved them. You, me, the soldiers, we did it together. I am only a part of it. Lara studied him, realizing the truth in his words. He did not fight for glory or recognition. He fought because it was necessary, because lives depended on it. And in that moment she understood why her people needed him, not just as a diplomat but as a protector, a strategist, and a symbol of hope. That night, the city held a quiet celebration. Fires were lit in the streets and people expressed gratitude in ways that transcended language. Lara walked through the crowd holding Jason's hand. She could feel the warmth of the citizens' respect for him, and it filled her with a sense of pride she had never felt before. Your people respect you, she said, her voice low. I have never seen anyone move them like this. Jason looked at her, a calm smile on his face. Respect is earned through action, not words. And courage is contagious. You showed it too, Princess. Your presence matters as much as mine. Lara nodded, feeling a connection she had not expected. The marriage that had begun as a political tool had become something more. It had created a partnership, a bond forged not just in ceremony but in shared experience and shared responsibility. In the days that followed, Valoria slowly returned to normal. The border city began to rebuild, its people inspired by the bravery and skill they had witnessed. Soldiers who had doubted the human diplomat now sought his guidance and insight. And Lara, once skeptical of her human husband, found herself watching him with admiration and respect. One evening, as they stood on the balcony of the restored city hall, Lara looked at Jason. The twin suns had set, leaving a serene twilight over the horizon. I thought I married you for peace, she said quietly, but now I see there is more to you than I ever imagined. You fight like someone from the stories of old, someone we could only dream of. Jason's expression softened. I do what is necessary to protect those who cannot protect themselves. That is all any of us can do. Stories come later. Lara smiled faintly, understanding the humility behind his words. She had married him to end a war, but she had found something unexpected. A human whose courage and skill could inspire her people. A partner who could stand beside her not just in politics, but in the heart of conflict itself. And in that moment, Lara realized that their journey had only just begun. The peace they had fought to secure was fragile, the challenges ahead uncertain. But with Jason by her side, she felt a sense of hope and determination that she had never known. Together they would face whatever trials the universe had in store. The morning air over Valoria's capital was crisp and tense. Rumors had spread quickly. The rogue faction was regrouping for a full-scale assault, larger and more organized than anything the city had faced before. From the highest towers of the palace, Lara could see black clouds of ships gathering in the distance. The war that had seemed to falter now threatened to strike with unstoppable force. Lara's heart pounded in her chest. She had seen Jason fight before, but this was something else. The city's survival rested on their ability to act together. And she knew that this battle would test them both in ways they had never imagined. Princess, Jason said quietly, as he studied the tactical maps. We need to prepare the city defenses and coordinate every unit. The enemy will attempt to split our forces. We must stay united. Lara nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. She had thought that marrying him was a political duty, that their partnership was mostly symbolic. Now she understood the truth. Jason was not just a diplomat or a leader. He was the key to survival, and she needed to trust him completely. As the first ships of the rogue faction appeared on the horizon, Jason moved swiftly. He organized squads of Valorian soldiers, placing them in strategic positions along the city's walls, rooftops, and streets. He combined alien technology with human tactics, creating defenses that none of the Valorian generals had considered. Lara watched, her admiration growing with every command he gave. Even in the face of imminent danger, he remained calm, his mind sharp and focused. He was a strategist unlike any she had seen, able to anticipate enemy movements and adapt instantly. The battle began at midday. Explosions shook the streets as rogue ships descended, and alien warriors poured into the city. Kalara's people fought bravely, but the enemy's numbers were overwhelming. For a moment, despair threatened to take hold, but then she saw Jason move. He leapt from one barricade to another, directing soldiers, disarming attackers, and striking with precision. His presence was magnetic. Soldiers rallied around him, gaining confidence and strength from his fearless example. Kalara had seen many warriors in her life, but none moved like him. He was quick, precise, and unstoppable, as if the chaos of battle had no effect on him at all. At one point, a massive enemy mech threatened to break through the city's central gate. Valorian soldiers struggled to hold it back, but Jason assessed the situation instantly. With Kalara beside him, he devised a daring plan. "Kalara, cover the eastern flank," he instructed, "while I draw it into the narrow street. The soldiers can trap it there and disable it." Kalara hesitated, then nodded. She trusted him completely, even though the risk was high. She moved with speed and grace, positioning troops and coordinating their actions. Jason led the charge, drawing the mech into the trap as he had planned. The soldiers closed in and the machine was neutralized without further damage to the city. The crowd of citizens who had gathered to watch the battle erupted in amazement. Whispers spread quickly. "The human fights like a god of war." Kalara's eyes widened. She had married him for peace, but now she understood the truth. Jason was not only capable of surviving the battlefield, he was capable of inspiring and leading others to victory. Hours passed in relentless combat. Every time the enemy seemed to gain ground, Jason appeared where he was needed most. He coordinated reinforcements, personally intervened in dangerous skirmishes, and kept morale high among soldiers who were exhausted and frightened. Kalara followed his lead, fighting alongside him when necessary, and learning how his strategies and bravery influenced the outcome of every encounter. At one point, a squad of rogue soldiers tried to flank the city's defenders from behind. Kalara noticed them first, but Jason was already ahead of her. He sprinted toward the squad, using quick, precise strikes to disable their weapons and guide the remaining attackers into surrender. The soldiers around him cheered, inspired by his skill and courage. Kalara felt a rush of pride and awe. This human, this man she had married for duty, was extraordinary. The sun began to set, casting long shadows across the battlefield. Valoria's defenders, weary but determined, held the line. Jason, though tired, showed no sign of slowing down. Kalara could see the subtle movements of his eyes, the constant calculations in his mind, the awareness of every threat and opportunity. He was tireless, unshakable, and utterly focused. "Princess," he said, turning to her briefly, "we are close. Hold your position. Once the enemy overextends, we can push them back completely." Kalara nodded, placing her trust in him completely. Together they waited for the right moment, and when it came, they acted with precision. Jason led a coordinated counterattack, combining Valorian strength and human tactics. The rogue faction, exhausted and outmaneuvered, began to retreat. The city's defenders pressed forward, inspired by the human who had become a symbol of hope and courage. By nightfall, the battle was over. Valoria's capital had survived. Fires were being extinguished, wounded soldiers were tended to, and citizens cautiously returned to their homes. Kalara walked through the streets with Jason by her side, observing the aftermath. She felt a mixture of relief, exhaustion, and awe. You fought like no one I have ever seen," she said quietly, her voice filled with genuine admiration. "Your skill, your courage, it is beyond what anyone could imagine." Jason shook his head. "I did what was necessary. We did what was necessary. The soldiers, the citizens, you all fought alongside me. I am only part of it." Kalara smiled faintly. "Part of it, yes, but the part that inspired everyone to stand and fight. You made them believe they could survive." Jason's expression softened. "Belief comes from trust, and trust is built through action. You were part of that as well, Princess. Your presence, your leadership, it mattered as much as mine." Kalara looked at him, feeling the depth of his words. She had married him to end a war, but now she realized that he had become something more than a partner in politics. He was a warrior, a leader, and a symbol of courage that transcended species. Her respect for him had grown into something deeper, though she was not yet ready to name it. The following days were filled with recovery and rebuilding. Valoria's people worked tirelessly to restore their city, inspired by the bravery and skill they had witnessed. Soldiers who had doubted humans now sought Jason's guidance, eager to learn from him. And Kaelara, once skeptical of her husband, found herself watching him with a mixture of admiration, curiosity, and trust. One evening, as they stood on a high balcony overlooking the city, Kaelara spoke softly. "I married you for peace, Jason, but now I see that you are capable of so much more. You fight like something out of legend." Jason glanced at her, his calm demeanor unwavering. "I fight because it is necessary, Princess. Legend is only what people say after the fact. The important thing is that we protect those who cannot protect themselves." Kaelara nodded, understanding the humility in his words. She had thought the human was fragile, unremarkable, even incapable of leading in battle. Now she knew the truth. Jason was extraordinary, a force of skill, courage, and determination that could inspire others to achieve the impossible. That night, as the twin moons of Valoria rose over the city, Kaelara stood beside Jason, feeling a sense of hope and security she had never experienced before. The battle had tested them both, revealed strength she had never imagined, and strengthened the bond between them. In that quiet moment, Kaelara realized something undeniable. The marriage she had entered for political reasons had become something more. It had become a partnership forged in the fires of conflict, a union strengthened by courage, trust, and shared purpose. And as she looked at Jason, she understood that the challenges ahead, though uncertain, could be faced together. For the first time in years, Kaelara felt a certainty that they could overcome anything, because this human, the one she had married for peace, had fought like a god of war. The city of Valoria lay in quiet aftermath. Fires had been extinguished, rubble cleared, and citizens cautiously returned to their routines. The air was filled with the sense of renewal, fresh earth, cleaned streets, and the faint tang of spent energy crystals from the recent battle. For the first time in years, peace seemed tangible, fragile but present. Kaelara stood atop the palace balcony, looking over the city she had fought so hard to protect. The memories of the battle were still vivid. The roar of engines, the clash of soldiers, the sight of Jason moving through the chaos with calm authority. She had married him for peace, for diplomacy, yet she realized now that the true power of their union had revealed itself on the battlefield. Jason joined her silently, his presence steady and reassuring. He had spent the morning coordinating the rebuilding of defenses, ensuring that the city's infrastructure was ready for any future threats. Despite the intensity of the past days, he showed no fatigue in his manner, only a quiet determination to see the city safe. "Valoria looks different today," Kaelara said softly, her voice carrying a mixture of relief and reflection. "It feels alive again." Jason glanced over the city, nodding. "It does, but it's more than the streets or the buildings. It's the people. They survived because they believed they could, and because they had each other." Kaelara studied him, noting the calm in his eyes, the quiet confidence that seemed unshakable even after days of relentless battle. She had come to see him as more than a human diplomat. He was a warrior, a strategist, and a symbol of hope. And now, as the sun rose high over the city, she realized how much he had changed her perspective too. Their attention was drawn to a group of young soldiers practicing drills in the courtyard below. Jason had spent time with them, teaching techniques that blended Valorian combat training with human ingenuity. The children's eyes sparkled as they followed his instructions, inspired by his skill and patience. Kaelara felt a swell of pride. He had not only protected the city, but had also empowered the next generation. "Look at them," she said quietly. "They believe in what you teach. They trust you." Jason shrugged modestly. "I do not do it for praise. I do it so they can protect themselves and their people. Belief is powerful, but only when paired with action." Kaelara nodded. His words struck her deeply. She had always known that Valoria needed peace, but now she understood that peace required more than treaties or ceremonies. It required courage, trust, and leadership that inspired others to rise above fear. Jason had provided all of that, and more. The following days were filled with rebuilding and reconciliation. Kaelara moved among her people, visiting families whose homes had been damaged, offering words of comfort, and coordinating relief efforts. She noticed how often her citizens looked at Jason with admiration, how they sought his guidance, and how their respect for humans had grown. Valoria's perception of her husband had transformed from skepticism to genuine trust. During a council meeting to discuss long-term strategies for sustaining peace, Kalara and Jason worked side by side. He offered practical solutions that considered both human and Valorian strengths, finding ways to integrate the two approaches. The counselors, once doubtful of humans, listened intently, their skepticism giving way to admiration. Kalara watched him handle questions with patience, clarity, and humility, and she felt a deep respect for his wisdom. That evening, Kalara found herself walking with Jason through the quiet palace gardens. The air was cool, carrying the scent of blooming flora. Lanterns glowed softly, casting warm light across the cobblestone paths. "Do you ever regret coming here?" she asked, her voice low. Jason shook his head. "Never. I came to help, yes, but I stayed because it matters. Because the people here need someone to stand with them, and because I trust in what we can accomplish together." Kalara studied him, feeling a warmth in her chest she could no longer ignore. She had married him out of duty, but now she realized that her connection to him went beyond political necessity. He had shown bravery, wisdom, and unwavering commitment. He had earned not only the trust of her people, but also her admiration, and something deeper that she had not expected to feel. "Jason," she said softly, "I thought this marriage was just for peace. But now I see, it has become so much more." He looked at her, his calm gaze steady. "It has, and it will continue to grow, Princess. Not because of titles or politics, but because we choose to face the future together." Kalara nodded, feeling the truth in his words. She had seen him fight, lead, and inspire. She had witnessed his courage and skill firsthand. And now, in the calm after the storm, she realized that she had come to trust him completely, to rely on his wisdom, and to value his presence not just as a diplomat or a warrior, but as a partner. In the days that followed, Kalara and Jason worked to strengthen the bonds between humans and Valorians. The citizens, inspired by the events of the battle and Jason's leadership, began to embrace collaboration, learning from his methods and integrating human strategies into their training. Schools and academies adopted his lessons, teaching young Valorians how to think strategically and act decisively. Kalara observed this with a sense of fulfillment. She had hoped for peace when she married Jason, but she had gained something far greater: unity, inspiration, and a partnership that could endure any challenge. Her people had learned to trust not just her judgment, but also the strength and wisdom of a human, a being they had once doubted could contribute meaningfully to their society. One afternoon, as the sun cast long shadows over the city, Kalara accompanied Jason to the city's central training grounds. Soldiers and cadets were practicing maneuvers, drills that combined Valorian agility with human tactics. Jason demonstrated techniques with calm precision, correcting mistakes gently and praising effort. The young soldier's eyes shone with respect and determination. Kalara watched him, feeling a deep sense of awe. "You inspire them," she said quietly. "Not through orders, not through force, but through your actions." Jason looked at her, a faint smile on his lips. "Actions speak louder than words, Princess. Belief comes from seeing what is possible. Courage comes from knowing that someone stands beside you. You stood beside me during the battle, and it made all the difference." Kalara felt a rush of warmth. She had been skeptical of humans, uncertain of their strength and resolve. Now she knew the truth. Jason was extraordinary, not just in combat, but in character. He had become a symbol of hope and courage for her people, and for her personally. As twilight descended over Valoria, Kalara and Jason stood side by side, looking out over the city. The streets were alive with rebuilding, laughter, and the quiet hum of life returning to normal. The people had survived, not only because of strategy or strength, but because they had believed in each other and in the human who had led them with bravery and wisdom. Kalara turned to Jason, her expression thoughtful. "I married you for peace," she said softly. "But now I see that you gave us something more. You showed us what courage truly means, and you inspired us to believe in ourselves." Jason shook his head, his calm gaze steady. "I did not do it alone, Princess. You were there too. Your leadership, your courage, your presence, it mattered as much as mine. We did this together." Kalara nodded, feeling the depth of his words. She had married him for duty, but she had gained a partner, a guide, and a companion whose courage and wisdom had changed her world. She realized that the true power of their union was not political, it was personal, forged in trust, respect, and shared trials. That night, as the twin moons of Valoria rose high in the sky, Kalara stood beside Jason in the palace gardens. The city lay quiet and safe beneath them. She reached out and took his hand, feeling the steady warmth of his grip. "Thank you, Jason," she said softly. "For everything." He looked at her, his calm expression filled with sincerity. "No, Princess. Thank you for trusting me, for standing beside me, and for giving me the chance to help your people. Together, we have done something extraordinary." Kalara smiled, feeling a sense of fulfillment and hope. She had entered this marriage for political necessity, for peace. But now she understood that she had gained something far greater, a partnership, a bond forged in courage, trust, and shared purpose. As they looked out over the city they had fought to protect, Kalara realized that the future, though uncertain, could be faced with confidence. With Jason by her side, they could confront any challenge, inspire their people, and build a lasting peace. And in her heart she knew one undeniable truth. The human she had married for duty had become a partner she could trust, respect and admire, perhaps even love. The suns rose the next day, casting golden light across Valoria's restored cityscape. Kalara and Jason stood together, ready to face whatever came next. For the first time in years, Valoria felt truly safe, its people inspired and its princess hopeful. And in that hope, Kalara understood that their journey, though begun for duty, had led to something far greater, a union that could withstand anything the universe might throw their way. The war was over, but the story of Valoria's courage and the human who fought like a god of war would live on forever.